Okay, today I'm gonna talk about left circle in React. So what is left circle? Through the life of components, there are several status, including when you load the page, you're gonna mount the component. When you get any props or you set the state, so you need to update the component, or finally probably you need to unmount the component. And there are several functions will be called at predetermined time, so that we could pre-declare these callback functions, which will be completed in the future to finish some tasks. So life circle is equal to life circle callback function or life circle hooks. So this is the concept of life circle, and after this I'm gonna give you an example to show how it works. So suppose we need a dev. It's just called dev element, just called left, which means left circle, right? So we need a barbell. Inside of this, we declare a React class. We just call it left. And what do we want to do on this component or on this DOM? We want to make a title fade repeatedly, right? So also we want to add a button to remove this component, and we want to run a fading function, right? So let's just take a look at this page first, right? So title fades repeatedly, and when we click this, we gotta remove this component. We wanna, if we click this run fading function, the title will just become transparent smoothly, and when the opacity of this title decreased into 0, we just reset the opacity of this title back to number 1, and so then it can just fade repeatedly, right? So now we need to set up the opacity, set up a style here. So style double bracket and opacity. Opacity is this dot state dot opacity, right? So we need to initialize opacity. Number 1. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, it works. Suppose is 05, right? As you can see, obviously it has to be reset, right? So initially we want it is number 1. So let's just define this function first. We need to, when we click this, we want this remove. So we need to remove this component. So there is a React DOM API. You need to learn. You need to remember this by heart directly. So when we click the remove button, so this function will become it is on mount component at node, and we need to pass a DOM. Yep, as you can see, when we click this button, the whole component will be removed, right? So after this, we want to just set up this opacity to decrease the opacity smoothly, right? So in this case, we need to set an interval and then call a function. In this function, we need to decrease opacity smoothly. As you can see, there is an error message or error alert here, right? So because this is a class, you cannot run a code snippet directly. You need to define a function first, then call this function, right? So timer, right? So if we want to set it, decrease the opacity, so if, so we need to const opacity this dot state. If opacity is less or equal to 0, we will set state opacity to back to 1. If it is not 0, so we need to set state opacity minus 0.1, right? And this function will be repeat every 2 milliseconds, right? 200 milliseconds. So now we want to run this. We want to trigger this function instead of this every time it render on the page, right? So as you can see, oh, it's become so fast. So let me just show you this. I want to display something, timer, so that you can just see this better to understand this. As you can see it here, it becoming faster and faster. It's not smooth at all. The reason why is because we put the interval in this render, and remember, every time we set the state, we'll call render function automatically, right? We have already talked about this before. This is a function of each time if we reset the state, the React will call render function for ourselves automatically. So we cannot do it this way. So how should we do that? Normally, based on what we have learned before, we want to bend this to upon click this dot timer, right? Oh, sorry, open, right? So now I click this run feeding function button. Yeah, it just runs. It just worked fine. It works as what we want, right? But this is not what we want eventually, because I don't want this button. I just wanted this function run once the page loaded, once the page after loading. So back to the concept or definition of the left circle. As you can see here, there are several functions will be called predetermined time. We could just declare these callback functions, which will be completed in the future to finish some tasks. So I wanted this title fade smoothly once the page finish loading, right? So there is a function called component date mount. So in this function, we call this dot timer. So what does this function mean? So this is a function will be executed when we mount this component on the page, and this the function in the code inside of this function will be triggered automatically without clicking event or any other human event, right? So let's just as you can see here, right, I didn't do anything. I didn't click the button and the title repeat smoothly, right? So this is one of the left circle function or left circle callback function or left circle callback hooks. It means that once the component mount on the page, finish mounting on the page, it will trigger this function, right? So now let's take a look. This page again. It just works. And how about we click this remove component button? We click this. It says cannot perform a react state on an unmounted component. As you can see here, this function is still running, right? So because even after this component removed from this page, we need to clear the interval, but we didn't do that. So we want to clear the interval somewhere. Probably we want to clear it here, clear interval. Okay, so to clear the interval, we need a timer ID, right? To use it here, timer ID. Refresh page, removes the component again. Timer ID is not defined. Oh, sorry. So you have to get this timer ID from the instance of the component, right? So now we remove the component again. As you can see here, the timer has stopped, right? You can do it this way, but again, now I have already introduced you the callback out like left circle function. So this is the function will be run when we mount the mount component. So as you can see here, there are several status: mount, update, or unmount. So there's also a function, a callback, a left circle hooks, a left circle callback function, which is responsible for what you want to do when you want to unmount a component. So let's just copy this And to define another callback function here the name is component will on mount. Right, you want to clear the interval here. Let's just take a look at this and remove component. Right, so the effect of this function, this component will on mount, is pretty similar to you just add your clear interval in the remove in this timer. In this remove function, right? So these two effects are pretty similar. So yeah, besides these two left circle functions, there are several other left circle functions as well. So I'm gonna just talk about it one by one and compare the old version left circle diagram to newer version left circle diagram. See what the difference between them, so that you can have a better understanding of left circle. Okay, this is pretty much the introduction of left circle hooks today.